Let's talk about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. This is basically a 2024 prediction and preview video, so hit the subscribe button if you're new. Also hit the like button. The Steelers had a very good offseason. Omar Khan, regardless of how this upcoming season ends, he went out there and he nailed it. He went out there with the hammer and he nailed every single position that was a need with the Steelers. The quarterback position was the biggest need for the Steelers. You had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. One of the weaker quarterback rooms in the NFL and one of the worst quarterback rooms in the NFL. Kenny Pickett was a bust with the Steelers. He's no longer with the Steelers. He's now with the Philadelphia Eagles. Mitch Trubisky was just downright horrible. He was terrible as well. Mason Rudolph came in for the last 3 games, helped the Steelers go 3-0 and helped them go out there and make the NFL playoffs to where he would start a playoff game against the Buffalo Bills. That is where their story would end. And it brings in a brand new question with the Steelers. With these brand new players, with guys like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, can they go out there and not only make the NFL playoffs, can they go out there and win a playoff game? This is a Steelers organization that has not won a playoff game since 2016, which is really crazy to think about because we're in 2024. And the Steelers get a lot of coverage. The Steelers are a very solid regular season team. They just have to get that demon off their back and just say, hey, they have to win a playoff game with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is not a bad football coach. I'm not saying that. But right now, his tenure with the Steelers is becoming very stale. Now, I'm going to give him a pass. The quarterback play over the last few years has not been the greatest. Big Ben the last couple of years, especially after he came back from Tommy John surgery, was not the same quarterback. But Big Ben can still sling the football deep down the field every now and then. But he was a scarecrow in the pocket, and he was not the same Big Ben for many years before when he was playing with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Then they went out there, they signed Mr. Trubisky, they drafted Kenny Pickett. We know how that ended. One thing Mike Tomlin doesn't get enough flack for, in my opinion, people give him so much credit. They're saying, hey, he's going out there, he's not having a losing season with a terrible offense. He's doing the best that he can. And he is. On the flip side of that, he's hired some horrible offensive coordinators. So let's talk about him. Randy Fichtner was a terrible offensive coordinator. Then he went over to Matt Canada. He was the worst offensive coordinator I've ever seen in Steelers history. By far the worst offensive coordinator last season of any NFL team. It was the same plays over and over again. So they fired him right before they played against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Kenny Pickett had a solid outing. He did not throw for a passing touchdown in that game, but he did look better. And the offense looked better without him calling plays. And I understand they went on a 3-game losing streak, but that was with Mitch Trubisky. Mason Rudolph is a tremendously better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. They lost against the Arizona Cardinals. They lost against the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots as well. Then they went over there and they gave Mason Rudolph the keys to go over there and finish out the season. They should have done that sooner. And I understand Mason Rudolph did not play his best at the time when he was a starter when Big Ben when he went down. But Mike Tomlin mismanaged that quarterback situation. I hope he doesn't do the same thing. Because when you look at the graphic right here, you have 3 brand new quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is expected to be the starter. He's dealing with a calf injury right now. Justin Fields is getting all the first team reps, and Kyle Allen is the 3rd string. I don't expect to see Kyle Allen at all, but you never know. It's the NFL. Injuries happen. The thing with Justin Fields, I've said this so many times over the last couple of months since they made the trade to go get Justin Fields. I don't see him starting for the Steelers. The national media is trying to will into existence. They're saying, hey, it's a quarterback competition. And Mike Tomlin has said over and over again, Russell Wilson is the veteran, and that's the guy that they're going to go with. If things do not turn out very well, then they may go out there with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is lighting it up right now in training camp. You have a lot of reports saying, hey, that he's going out there, he's showing a lot of splashes. He shows splashes with the Chicago Bears. He doesn't do the routine throws very well. And when you don't do those things very well, you get into trouble. Ask the Baltimore Ravens, how does that work out when Lamar Jackson goes against the Steelers? He has a 2-4 record because he misses routine throws. And this is not a Lamar Jackson hate video. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. When I look at Lamar Jackson, he struggles against certain teams because he can't make certain throws. The same with Justin Fields. Explosive runners, they can go out there, they can kill you with their legs. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback option right now, especially with working inside and outside the pocket. I think that Russell Wilson will go out there and he will have a solid season with the Steelers. And if Russell Wilson does go out there and they do win a playoff game, they're going to give him a contract extension for the next 2 years. I can definitely see that happening. Right now, you have Russell Wilson basically for free. The Denver Broncos cut him. They're paying out that salary right now. The Steelers are just paying $1 million, maybe just a little more, and that's it. They're not paying him a lot of money, and they're not paying Justin Fields a lot of money either. It's one of the cheaper quarterback rooms in the NFL. And Russell Wilson showed that he still has a lot left in the tank. 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's very good. Now, this is my one thing with Russell Wilson. He doesn't pass over the middle of the field as much. And he was not able to do that with the Seattle Seahawks. Can he pass over the middle of the field? Yes. But it's not on par with the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's the same with Aaron Rodgers. The thing is with Russell Wilson, he likes to throw deep down the sideline. The Steelers have been doing that since Antonio Brown was here with Martavis Bryant. So they're a team that predicates the sidelines with weapons like George Pickens and possibly Pat Freiermuth if you want to motion him out. I mentioned that they had horrible coordinators a couple minutes ago. They're bringing in yet a brand new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, who was a very good offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans. He was so good to where he got a head coaching spot with the Atlanta Falcons. He was not the best coach with the Atlanta Falcons. He was terrible. He could not develop a quarterback to save his life. That first season underneath him with Matt Ryan, they went 7-10. They went 7-10 all 3 seasons, back to back to back underneath Arthur Smith. He had a solid season with Matt Ryan. I look at Justin Fields. He still is a project quarterback from inside the pocket. When you pair up a guy like Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith, they're going to work off the run game. Their run game was 13th in the NFL last season. That's with bad quarterback play. You give them decent quarterback play. Russell Wilson doesn't even have to go out there and throw for 300 passing yards a game. You give Russell Wilson the opportunity to just go out there and throw the football 20 to 25 times a game. You let the leash off every now and then, and you work off the run game, you can easily score 21 to 24 points a game. That will get it done. This is a Steelers team that basically won a lot of games last season off their defense alone. They defeated the Cleveland Browns in that first matchup on the Monday Night Football game. That's the game that Nick Chubb went out of with that horrible, gruesome knee injury. It was a pick 6 by Alex Highsmith. It was a fumble for 6 by TJ Watt. And they got one great play to Calvin Austin III. To George Pickens. It was Kenny Pickett to George Pickens. It was a slant route that went straight to the house. That's 21 points right there. And 14 of those points came off the defense's back. Russell Wilson isn't going to turn the football over as much. He's not going to put the football in harm's way. And you may get annoyed with that. You may say there's open, deep receivers deep down the field, like how it was against the Houston Texans, like how it was against the New York Jets. That is true. That's a weakness of Russell Wilson's game. It's the same weakness that he had with the Seattle Seahawks. But you can still win football games with Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos were in the playoff race at the middle of the season before they decided to say, you know what, Russ? We want you to go out there and possibly take a pay cut. You're not the same quarterback anymore. You're not the same guy that you were a couple of years ago. He says, hey, I'm not going to do that. So they say, you know what? You don't fit the Sean Payton system. We want to go in a new direction. They benched him. That's the truth of it. Russell Wilson was not a bad quarterback underneath Sean Payton. And realistically, if we want to be honest, he has only had one bad season in his career. And that was his first season with the Denver Broncos. Horrible offensive line, horrible coaching by Nathaniel Hackett. He had 16 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions. You give him a competent offensive line, which the Steelers look like they have, and a strong run game, which they do have, automatically in a better situation. And I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and be a top 10, top 15 quarterback. But his numbers last season and on film, he was solid. And that's all the Steelers really need. When I look at this offensive line, and speaking of the offensive line, they have rebuilt it in the best way possible over the last couple of years. They selected Najee Harris in the first round a couple of years ago. I thought they should have went with the offensive lineman with that pick. Then in the second round, you could have went with a running back. No way am I calling Najee Harris a bust. He's had over 1,000 yards rushing every single season in his career. And it's tough to do that because of the terrible quarterback play and the terrible offensive play calling. They declined the fifth-year option with Najee Harris. That's very interesting. We'll see if he gets a long-term deal. I imagine that he will. Najee Harris has not been bad. Why am I bringing up Najee Harris when I'm supposed to talk about the offensive line? Because the offensive line play has not been the best. Even those last years with Big Ben, it wasn't on par. When Mike Munchak left, and he's the former offensive line coach, the offensive line took a dip. Then you started to see some key players leave. Maurice Pouncey at the center position, he retired. David DeCastro, he retired. Andrew Villanueva, he went away to become a tackle with the Baltimore Ravens. That fizzled out very quickly. Now you look at this offensive line. You drafted Troy Fautanu in the first round, who can play left tackle. He can play guard. He's more so a tackle than he is a guard. And 13 games played, 845 snaps in college. Only allowed 15 quarterback hurries and 2 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. That was it. He's going to fit well alongside Broderick Jones. And I'm happy that they drafted a tackle because they put Broderick Jones at left tackle last season. He's a right tackle, and he's a tremendous right tackle. He only allowed 5 sacks last season. He did not start the entire season as a starter at the tackle position, but at right tackle, he only allowed 2 sacks. That was it. This is a guy that can go out there and he can be a franchise tackle with the Steelers, and he showed a lot of flashes on the field. So you have Troy Fautanu, left tackle. May take some time for him to go out there and get going, but he's very prototypical with that size. You have Broderick Jones that's entering year number 2. James Daniels, who was a very good guard with the Steelers. He's been a very good right guard. You have Isaac as well at the left guard position that you got a couple of years ago from the Philadelphia Eagles when he was a free agent. You move on from Mason Cole, who was the worst starting center last season in the NFL. By far, he was terrible. You draft Zach Frazier, who is now going to come in and be your center from West Virginia. In 12 games, he had 806 snaps played, 3 quarterback hits, 0 sacks allowed. And he is more so known for his run blocking than he is for his pass protection. That's a great thing to see as well. The one drawback, you have a lot of rookies and a lot of young players on this offensive line. You hope that they can develop to the T. Because you give Russell Wilson the good offensive line, you hope that he can stay inside the pocket. But more so, having a dominant offensive line is going to open up more rushing lanes for Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. So I like the offensive line that they have right now. It's easily going to be very good. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do moving forward. But I like this offensive line unit, and they're headed into the right direction. If it's the Mike Tomlin saying, run the football and stop the run, which really doesn't work in today's NFL. You have to be able to pass the football at times as well. And I am so excited to see Najee Harris finally get to run against boxes that are not stacked up with safeties. It was so bad to where they would just put 2 safeties in a box because the Steelers cannot take the top off the defense. So now you're adding in a threat. And we got to see that the last 3 games of the season when Mason Rudolph would go out there and make the routine throws, even though one of the games came against the backups against the Baltimore Ravens, and they did have some of their starters out there. We saw Najee Harris find creases, and he was able to go out there and average over 4 yards a carry, and sometimes over 5 yards a carry at the end of the season. Jaylen Warren is more so the speed back. He's the guy that's going to catch the football at the backfield. He has more pop to his game. He's way more explosive than Najee Harris, which may also feed into the narrative of why the Steelers may not want to give him that long-term contract extension and why they did not go out there and exercise that fifth-year option, because they just view Najee Harris as a power back. I view him as a complete running back. He can catch the football at the backfield. He is a bit slow in open field when it comes to those situations, but he's a very valuable running back to have. He can get the football 20, 25 times in the game, and he's not going to wear himself out. And he fits the system of Arthur Smith. We go back a couple of years ago with Arthur Smith. He helped Ryan Tannehill get a contract extension. Ryan Tannehill looked like a monster. Even though Ryan Tannehill did benefit from playing with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, Arthur Smith found the right plays to get those guys involved, and he found the best way to get Ryan Tannehill the opportunities to go out there and run the football and run read option and run some RPO with not with George Pickens, with A.J. Brown at the top. I can see a lot of RPO action with George Pickens, Najee Harris, and Russell Wilson, by the way. It just comes down to just seeing if Russell Wilson can stay inside the pocket and can he just stay out of his own way, because he will run himself into sacks and will hold on to the football for too long. With the Denver Broncos, he did get rid of the football quicker. Hopefully he can carry that over with the Steelers. When you look at the wide receivers, this is the position I'm worried about the most. Running backs are very good with the Steelers. Offensive line, they're young. They'll figure that thing out. They only have one proven wide receiver in George Pickens. That's it. The first 2 years have been very good. He just had over 1,000 receiving yards this season. And he was catching the football from guys like Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. On 63 catches, he had 1,140 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 18 yards a catch. Your next best wide receiver may be a rookie in Roman Wilson, who you also drafted this year in this year's draft class in the 3rd round. I like Roman Wilson a lot. I think that Roman Wilson will be a very good number 2 wide receiver. Right now, he's dealing with an ankle injury. It's an ankle sprain. It's nothing too serious. He's expected to be back on the field by week 1 when the Steelers travel to Atlanta to go play the Falcons. But you worry about that when you're depending on rookies. Your next best guy may be Calvin Austin III, and he's a very interesting guy to look at. Did not play his rookie season. Sophomore season, was able to go out there, did have some big flash plays. He needs to be more consistent. He is known to take the top off the defense. If he can go out there and he can be that guy, that would be great. But I am worried about the wide receivers. The counter argument to this would be the Steelers always draft very well. They always get good wide receivers. Names such as Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Wallace, they have drafted very well. But I wanted to see these guys come out and prove that. So right now, I am worried about the wide receivers. You're still not going to go out there and stack the box. That would be crazy to do so. Because if you leave Calvin Austin third in one-on-one coverage with a cornerback, especially in the slot, he could take the top off the defense like how he did against the Las Vegas Raiders. And like how he has done in the past as well. Van Jefferson is also another guy on this roster. I don't expect him to do much. Van Jefferson was in the perfect situation with the Rams. He did not do much over there. He did not do much with the Atlanta Falcons either. This is one of those situations to where Arthur Smith's trying to figure things out with him. He's trying to get him integrated into the game plan. I'm not the biggest Van Jefferson guy. He can go out there. He'll be a good number 3 to number 4 wide receiver. As a number 2, no, you're in trouble. And the same with Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson as a kick returner and a punt returner, phenomenal. Even in the backfield, you want to give him carries and you want to go out there and run some wildcat. That's a great thing to see. When it comes to running routes down the field, I don't want to see it at all. I've seen it in the past with the Minnesota Vikings. I saw it with the Patriots. It just doesn't work out. But in that running back role and you let him be the short yardage wide receiver, fine, there's something there. But your 2 top targets are going to be George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. And you may say, Pat Freiermuth, he hasn't done much since Big Ben. My point exactly. That was Big Ben on his last leg. And he was able to go out there and have a very productive rookie season. Kenny Pickett did not target the tight end as much. Mason Rudolph was trying to get him into the game plan even more. And we started to see him finally go out there and have some life on the field. In the past, Russell Wilson has not been known to go out there and give the tight end the football that much. But Arthur Smith has known to be a coordinator, to utilize the tight end. A guy like Jonnu Smith had a career year with him, with the Atlanta Falcons, and a better year when he was with the Tennessee Titans. Pat Freiermuth is his type of tight end. He'll put his hand in the dirt. He can block. He can run the routes. He's going to get open. He's going to sit right across the middle of the field. He can go play on the outside as well. Just get him the football. It's the reason why the Steelers were high on him coming out of the NFL draft. And it's the reason why they drafted him in the first place. Get him the football with George Pickens while these other guys go out there and they develop. The offense was the weakest link with this team last year. That was it. And you look at him right now on paper, even if Russell Wilson doesn't work out with Justin Fields, his ability to go out there and run the football, you're going to be in a better situation than you were in last season. And I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm not trying to be facetious. I just don't see Justin Fields being that guy. I could be wrong. I could be. But I really see Russell Wilson going out there and having a solid season with the Steelers upcoming. The defense, this is where their money is made. This is where Mike Tomlin prides himself on. The defense was spectacular last season, even with all the injuries. They had so many middle linebackers that went down, so many guys in the secondary that went down. When this defense is fully healthy, they're one of the better defenses in the NFL. TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the NFL. I'm going to die on that hill. He's the best pass rusher. He's the best disruptor in the NFL. I don't care what Micah Parsons says. I don't care about he doesn't get double teamed, all of this crap. It doesn't matter. The Steelers are a significantly better team with TJ Watt than they are without him. He's the best player on this roster, and he's the best defensive player in the NFL. If he's not able to stay healthy for the entire season, they're going to lose more football games than they win. When he plays, it's the reason why the Steelers' win percentage is up, because of how great he is. Not because of how good, it's because of how great he is. And he should be a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He should have won it this season, and he should have won it a couple years ago as well. This man deserves his flowers. TJ Watt comes off a great season. He did get injured late in the season, and there's a reason why they went out there and they were not able to get pressure against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Alex Highsmith is amazing in his own right. He's no TJ Watt. And this is how great TJ Watt is. TJ Watt will go out there and he opens up everything for everyone else on that front seven, linebackers included. Guys like Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson and Cole Holcomb, they're going to benefit from playing behind TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith, just the year before when TJ Watt went down with the torn pec, he had 14.5 sacks on the season. This previous season, the numbers went down. They put him more so into pass coverage than they let him put his hand to the dirt. I don't have a problem with that. 7 sacks on the season, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions for Alex Highsmith. I want to see him rush the passer just a little bit more for selfish reasons, because he could be a premier pass rusher in the AFC. It's the reason why he got the contract extension that he got. Underrated pass rusher, by the way. You have him, you have TJ Watt. Not too many teams in the NFL have 2 guys that can come off the edge and they can get you and they can stop the run. The Steelers have that. The depth pieces behind them, they're not the best, but they're not the worst. I like Nick Herbig. He's a very good player to have behind Alex Highsmith. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. You also have Loudermilk as well at the defensive end spot. He can come in and stop the run. He's not going to give you pass rush. I'm not going to come in here and give out false hope and saying that, hey, if Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt, if they go down, you have a plethora of pass rush behind them. You don't. Not too many teams in the NFL do. But you have these 2 guys that can go out there. They can put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. You have Cameron Hayward. He wants a contract extension. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. Cameron Hayward is in the back end of his career. Not because he's 35 years old. It's because look at him on film. He's not the same guy. He's not going to go out there and push the pocket at the same rate he was able to a couple of years ago. And he's a very good defensive tackle still. I would like to see Keanu Benton start to get more snaps right now. Keanu Benton is the guy that you hope that can come in and he can be that Cameron Hayward replacement. Cameron Hayward only had 2 sacks this season. And I understand he dealt with an injury this season. He missed some time. But let Keanu Benton go out there, let him develop, and let him finally get that opportunity to be that starting defensive tackle spot. 2 forced fumbles, 1 sack on the season. Montravius Adams is a very good backup defensive tackle to have. You have Dean Lowry. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to be a very good rotational defensive lineman in terms of just stopping the run. The linebackers, this is where they dealt with the most injuries. It got so bad to where they had to bring in Miles Jack, who you called in off his couch. And shout out to him, by the way, because he played very well. It's hard to come in and play for a team when you did not start the season with the team. And yes, he has history with the Steelers in the past. I fully understand that. But let's give him some credit. He came in and did the best that he could, especially in those last 3 games of the regular season. You went out there, you signed Patrick Queen. I'm not as high on Patrick Queen as some other people. He's not a true number 1 middle linebacker, but he's a very good middle linebacker. Even though he's not this hyped up prospect that a lot of people say that he is, he was going to get his 5th-year option decline with the Ravens until Roquan Smith came over there. But Patrick Queen, he could tackle in space. He can cover tight ends. He's going to be playing alongside Peyton Wilson, who you also drafted as well. Peyton Wilson is a phenomenal linebacker. He's missing an ACL. I will say this right here. You can't tear something that you don't have. And he's dealt with shoulder injuries as well. He's coming off a very good season. 138 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, and 3 interceptions. He's a speedy linebacker that can cover running backs out the backfield. The only thing that you worry about him is injuries. That's it. But him playing along Patrick Queen, it should be a very good linebacking duo in the middle of that field. Especially with Cole Holcomb missing a couple of games for his upcoming season because he's still dealing with that knee injury. And Cole Holcomb was a beast until he got injured. And that's one thing you worry about as well. They have a lot of injury-prone players at that position. So that's why going out there and getting Patrick Queen was a plus. Hasn't dealt with injuries in the past. And at his worst, he's just going to be a solid linebacker with the Steelers. He's going to be amazing in goal line situations, by the way, with the Steelers. You still have Landon Roberts, who did a very good job when all those guys went down. He's a very good backup linebacker to have. You can mix those guys up. They're very interchangeable. So their front seven is very good. Their secondary, I'm still worried about their secondary. Micah Fitzpatrick dealt with some injuries last season. He usually is able to stay healthy. And when he is able to stay healthy, he's the best cover safety in the NFL. You now have Jesse Bates, who has now taken that role. At his worst, he would be one of the best cover safeties in the NFL. Micah Fitzpatrick is phenomenal. He's awesome. He's been great with the Steelers. Just because he had one down year due to injuries, I'm not going to turn my back on him. The man is phenomenal. I love his game. You won't get me to say a negative thing about Micah Fitzpatrick. And he went to Alabama, got drafted by the Miami Dolphins. I love the fact that the Steelers traded that first round pick for him. So he's going to be very good right there. He just has to stay healthy. You have Deshaun Elliott at the strong safety position. 1 interception on the season, 7 pass deflections. Not the best in coverage, I will say that. But he's not horrible either. Solid guy to have. You're not going to have all-stars at every position on your defense. These are just good players to have. They can fill out the roster, and if guys go down, they will step up. When Micah Fitzpatrick did go down, they moved Patrick Peterson to that safety position to where he looked better. If they did not have Micah Fitzpatrick on the roster, I could easily see Patrick Peterson sticking around and being a free safety with the Steelers. Unfortunately, their secondary is too crowded, and Patrick Peterson is no longer with the Steelers, and he still is a free agent. Be on lookout for that. If an injury does happen in that secondary, expect for them to bring back Patrick Peterson. As an outside corner, he was not the best. When he was a single high safety, he did look better. Just keep that in mind. Joey Porter Jr. is their number 1 cornerback right now. I don't have a problem with that. I like Joey Porter Jr. I thought he should have been a first-round pick a year ago. The thing is with Joey Porter Jr., he has a tendency to hold on to wide receivers for too long, and you get a lot of holding penalties. But at the same time, he jams you up at the line of scrimmage, you're not going to get that acceleration off the line. And those last 5 games, he looked special. Hopefully, he can be their number 1 corner. This Steelers secondary has struggled with trying to find a true number 1 cornerback for years. They went out there, they drafted Artie Burns. They didn't even want to really go out there with Artie Burns. They wanted to go with a different corner, but the Bengals went out there and they picked up William Jackson III. That's who the Steelers wanted. And he was a very good cornerback with the Bengals. And Artie Burns was a bust with the Steelers. He has some okay moments. But Joey Porter Jr. seems like he's going to be one of the better cornerbacks that the Steelers have selected in the last couple of years. You also have Dante Jackson as well. I will bring this back into that offensive standpoint. I thought you could have just traded a pick for him instead of just trading Deontay Johnson. And I know that the Panthers wanted a wide receiver. Deontay Johnson did a lot of good things with the Steelers. Yes, he had a lot of bad moments to where he looked like a diva. So did Antonio Brown. And I'm not calling Deontay Johnson Antonio Brown, but Deontay Johnson with George Pickens on this roster right now, I think that they will be more equipped to go out there and win more football games. Because when you have to be the number 1 wide receiver, George Pickens, you now have to deal with bracket coverage. And yes, he was truly the number 1 wide receiver last season because Deontay Johnson went down. He missed a lot of games with the hamstring injury. But when he came back, he made his presence known. They may not miss him late in the season, but early on, they're going to miss Deontay Johnson. It brings me back to Deontay Jackson because that's who they traded to go get Deontay Jackson. Deontay Jackson is not a bad cornerback. He's a very good press man corner. The problem is with Dante Johnson, he hasn't been able to stay healthy with the Panthers. That's it. If he can stay healthy, if he can give you 12 to 13 games, I'm all for it. Then you have him, you have Joey Porter Jr. You may get a lot of holding calls here and there, but they're going to go out there. They're going to press up against some of the wide receivers like a Jamar Chase, like a T. Higgins, like a Zay Flowers. They can go out there and they can do that. And they can deal with Rashad Bateman as well. And they can go out there and they can try to slow down Amari Cooper in those pieces. So when I look at the Steelers, they have the roster to go out there and do something that they haven't done since 2016. And I'm not trying to build up any false hope. I'm really not trying to. But it's going to be hard for him to go out there and really navigate for his upcoming season because of how hard the schedule is. But that could be scheduled to change, dealing with injuries and all those things. The one thing with the Steelers, they play down to competition. But at the same time, you don't really have bad teams for this upcoming season to go against. You're facing teams like the Las Vegas Raiders. They're trying to figure out their quarterback situation. They beat them last season. But you're going to be facing a team like the Los Angeles Chargers. That's going to be tough. You face the New York Jets. You're going to face the Dallas Cowboys at home. You face the Falcons on the road. That may be tough. It's a lot of tough games. Then you also have the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Baltimore Ravens, which are all tough games for the Steelers. But every other team in this division, they have tough games as well. And they have a tough schedule. When I look at the Ravens, they're missing a lot of players. They lost a lot of good players in free agency. 3 of their starting offensive linemen, they're no longer there. They lost some key solid defensive players as well. Yes, they add in Derrick Henry. They're going to have a dominant rushing attack. They always have a dominant rushing attack. The Bengals, offensive line concerns are still there. The Steelers match up very well with them. And the Cleveland Browns, the Steelers defeated the Cleveland Browns when Deshaun Watson was healthy. With that pick 6 and that fumble for 6, you could say it was a fluke win. But that was also the only team to defeat the Steelers last season in the division. I don't expect them to go out there and go 5-1 in the division for this upcoming season. If they do, they easily make the NFL playoffs. If they're able to go 5-1 for this upcoming season, which would be crazy in this division, they will easily make the NFL playoffs. But I look at Russell Wilson as a guy that can go out there, he could be solid, and I understand on film against some of the tougher competition, he will get exposed. But when you look at the Denver Broncos, it wasn't the best situation. It was a hostile situation with him and Sean Payton. And Sean Payton is a great offensive mind, by the way. I'm not trying to throw him underneath the bus. But now it's a new change of scenery for Russell Wilson. You have better weapons here than you did with the Denver Broncos. It's a brand new start. But let me know in the comment section below. Do you believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers can go out there and make the NFL playoffs? And can they win a playoff game for the first time since 2016? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, we want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.